वो लैपटॉप पे 3 मिनट दिखा रहा है. Okay. Okay, so welcome. This is the second live session for the course Plastic Waste Management. And as you know, for the live session, we follow a certain protocol. We try to answer the questions which have been posted through that Google link that was given to you to post questions for this particular live session. And in additional, we will take some of the common questions which is given during the discussion forum, which was already answered, but if there is we will try to get to that as well. Some of the ones which was pretty common and we found to be interesting, so we'll try to talk about that. And there were a couple of questions for the previous live session which could not be answered, that we will look at that as well. In fact, that was posted in some other forum, not during the live. It was not posted on the chat session. So let's look at those questions which was from the previous live session. First, the question is from Ms. Silpi, and the question says there is a lot of potential to integrate circular economy principles in plastic sector, including plastic packaging. What, according to you, are the five most important ways to do this, along with value chain and life cycle of plastic? So since this question came in live session 1, I assume that Ms. Silpi must have got the answer by this time, because in the week 8, the whole week is actually devoted into circular economy, resource recovery, and are related to plastic. So we do talk about that in great detail. So I'll just summarize few important points in terms of life cycle of plastic. You can intervene in the entire life cycle. When we say life cycle, when we talk about circular economy, it is cradle to cradle. So from the very beginning to the very end, from the disposal stream, recycle stream, and recovery, and bringing it plastic resources from plastic waste back to the economy. So you can look from a very beginning point of view, like in terms of the source material. You can look for renewable alternative sources, get rid of fossil fuel base and go for renewable alternative sources. You redesign plastic products and production and products with greener material. Only go for essential plastic using renewable sources. Don't go for a lot of where we can replace plastic with other materials which are environmental friendly. Then consumer use also based on sustainable business model can be designed. Reuse can be done, such as refurbishing, sharing, leasing, redistribution, and symbiosis effect. Recycling, remanufacturing, chemical recycling, and we talked about all that as part of week 7 as well as week 8, which was covered after the live session 1. So I hope that you must have got the answer already. And also we looked at some of the case study. In fact, a Unilever case study, we spent quite a bit of time, and where they have gone through each steps where how they can intervene into have a circular economy approach for the plastic management and plastic like a value chain. So I hope that answers your question. Then next was again from the live session 1, that Anupama, what steps have to be initiated to start the career in plastic recycling? Of course, one good step is you are taking this course so that you have this background. So yes, if you want to get into plastic recycling, whether I'm not sure whether you're talking about starting your own business or going for a company. So there is a lot of push in terms of recycling of plastic within India. As you know, China has banned export of plastic waste. So and India has also recently banned China has banned import of plastic waste for unless it's very, very clean. India is also is banning part of plastic waste coming to India. So, but we ourselves generates a lot of plastic, and that needs we need to set up number of recycling facility within India. So there will be jobs in this sector, and many times these jobs will not only be specific to plastic. You will have to have in general like a concept of waste management. So if you are a waste management engineer with a specialization in plastic waste, having taken this course and similar, have done some reading on that, of course you should be able to find a job in the plastic recycling business. If you want to think about starting a company, then that's a different thing altogether. Another question from Surya. There are two questions. Number one, is there any possibility to treat the soil in larger depths with plastic? Usually if you look at the larger depths, you should not see much plastic showing up there unless you are talking about a dump site where we have huge dump site which is now several feet, and at the lower level of that dump site we have some plastic being there. In general, in the soil, if we go several few feet down the soil layer, we should not see any plastic there. You may see traces of microplastic, but that's what but that also will be captured through that will get retarded through the soil layer. It will depend on what kind of soil is present. So at certain depths below the surface, you will not see plastic showing up there unless somebody has buried it on purpose, and that's a different thing altogether. And question 2 is, being a normal person, how could I create awareness to the people to get rid of these thin carry bags? Yes, you being a citizen of the country, what you can do is you can only talk about it. If you are in a community, if you are living in a gated community, you can talk to the secretary of that particular community. You can impress upon them that they should try to minimize the use of plastic, single-use plastic within that your locality. So gradually things will move. So even initially there will be resistance for sure, but gradually people will end up changing if they are explained properly. You can create some awareness in terms of flyers, in terms of posters, in terms of doing a small Nukkad programs, depending on what is your skill. Based on that you can come up, and there are a lot of organizations out there in many all major metros and big cities where they can come in and pay their part as well. So many things we don't have to do things in isolation. We can always form a team and work on that. So that's what I would like to say for that particular part. The question which is posted for this live session, number 1 from name is Rudri. What special care should be taken to construct plastic road which generates less amount of microplastic or less amount of hazardous fumes while melting plastic into asphalt? So as you probably saw in that lecture material, that there is a concern that when we are making this plastic road, which are coming out to be pretty good in terms of their performance when compared to the traditional asphalt road. They are even showing better results. They're superior, but they do there is a risk of microplastic leaching from these plastic roads and getting into the surface water. So to get rid of those, of course, we have to work on the mix design. We have to work on some sort of encapsulation of this plastic so that doesn't leach off, and that would be mostly from a transportation engineering point of view. So I don't know much about that. Of course, you also have to research, and I also have to research and talk to our transportation engineering friends to help us. My background is in environmental engineering. But for the second part, which relates to more to the environmental engineering aspect, which is how to make less amount of hazardous fumes while melting plastic into asphalt. So again, hazardous word should not be used very lightly. That fumes could be hazardous, may not be hazardous. It depends on whether it meets certain criteria. But yes, it is harmful. We can call it it's a harmful fumes. We need to control that, and that can be controlled when you can do this mixing of plastic into asphalt and all those process in a controlled environment, and put it in a controlled environment, collect those fumes and treat those fumes before discharging into the atmosphere. There will be cost, but again we will reduce the health cost. So there will be some additional cost going into there, and which should be built into the project. And so because ultimately the money belongs to the country, and if we can keep the people healthy, and we are saving money there as well. So that's how we will work on that in terms of keeping the fumes low. Next question is from Akhil Sarath, which question is quite a long question, but the question says, what are the types of plastic that are used for plastic covers which are less than 50 microns, or for packaging products like Lay's and other potato chips, as they don't mention any symbol? Which type of plastic is being used? And that's the first part. So let's answer the first part first, and which says about what is the packaging material for Lay's potato chips or any potato chips or any wafers, biscuits, and all that. So as we mentioned during one of the lecture as well, that type of plastic is actually called multi-layered plastic. So it has certain polymers. So there are multi-polymers in there. So for example, if you think about that Lay's potato chips or any chips packet, typically, and again these are not hard and fast rule, different company may have a different material, but typically inside you have what is known as biaxially oriented polypropylene. So it's a BOPP. You may hear that term somewhere, BOPP, like, which is a biaxially oriented polypropylene. That's the inner part. Then you have LDPE in the middle. You have low density polyethylene in the middle, and on the outer side you have a thermoplastic resin which is there on the outer side. So these three layers together is that there in that Lay's potato chips cover. So it doesn't so thickness is very, very minute, because all three together, when you feel it, it still feels the thickness to be very, very low. So but they have this is called multi-layered plastic, and these multi-layer, which is different kind of polymers, are there because it is there for a purpose. It's not there just for fun, because we don't make anything, we don't design things just for because it has a certain purpose. For example, when you have this thermoplastic resin, it tries to it's a stronger material. And along with LDPE, it's a stronger, but at the same time very flexible. Biaxially oriented polypropylene, that it's known for moisture resistance, because you don't want moisture to get into your plastic Lay's potato chips bag and make your potato chips look bad or not that crunchy, because as you open the bag it should be crunchy. And these three together has all those property, but at the same time, if the potato bag drops from your hand, the chips bag, it's strong enough, it doesn't break down, there is no breakage in those cover. But at the same time, when you try to open it, it's pretty easy to open through. So you can just take it apart and it opens, and you can use it, you can eat it. So that's why it's a multi-layered packaging. Same thing is used for different packaging material, which is there for potato wafers, for biscuits, and all those kind of stuff as well. Second part of that question from Akhil is setting up recycling unit for single-use plastic is viable in India, and how to differentiate the types of plastic, as many don't mention symbols. So once you start working on the plastic industry, when you start after looking at the plastic, you will be able to tell which kind of plastic it is. So it's but many of them, especially the ones which have easily recyclable ones, usually carry that number. But this multi-layer plastics and other stuff will not carry any number, because it's a mixture of different types of plastics together. So in terms of single-use plastic, whether it's viable in India, again it depends. You have to do a market analysis. You have to see whether in general, when you ask that very general question, I would say yes, it is viable in India, but depends. It will depend on what kind of demand is there, what kind of product you will make, what is the technology you are going to use, how much per ton or per kg of plastic waste that you will treat, how much the cost it will come, how much cost you are getting in terms of tipping fee, and how much money you can make by selling those revenue. So you have to look at the entire the business aspect of that, and then you have to look at whether it's viable or not. You can get benefit of certain government programs as well, which you can get some support from the government to do that. So those are it all, again, whether it's viable, maybe yes, but again you have to do a detailed work on that to find out. Next question is from some named Mata Rani. When hall ticket will be published and lecture material sufficient for exam? When hall ticket will be published, you will get an email from NPTEL IIT Madras office, so don't worry about that. Just keep an eye on your email. If you have not received yet, you will get an email when they will tell you when the hall tickets are ready and in terms of is the lecture material sufficient for exam, lecture material that are weekly PowerPoint slides, plus we have put several reading materials on the website. You should have at least gone through, flip over those reading materials. You may not have to read in great detail those, but of course read in great detail the lecture slides. Lecture slides, if you read great detail and if you have listened to all the videos carefully, you should be okay. But you should also look at those reading materials, at least flip them over and see what are the important points there. So that should be fine for your exam, I think. Name Kayenda. I want to learn this course online because I'm working in the mining company in DR Congo. So what can I do for me to get a certificate? So since you are in Congo, I'm not sure like in terms of the exam, right now NPTEL exams only happens at the centers within India. We don't have centers outside India as of today. So since you are in Congo, one thing is that during the exam period, if you are in India, you can register and take the exam. I think exam registration date was also over just few days back. Otherwise, we cannot like, unless you take the exam, you will not get the certificate. So it's you can like that's what you have to. And right now we don't have exam centers outside India. We don't have a fully online exams which you can take from anywhere in the world. So we don't have that program yet. Hope maybe in future, but right now that's what you have to come to India to give the exam. And you can contact this. This is for this question. I would say encourage you to contact also IIT Madras NPTEL office, which you have the email address from their course website, and they may be able to give more insight into that. Next question is from Naveen Chandra Patra. The question is, sir, after going through this course as an awareness has been developed to the effect of non-management of waste plastic in our day-to-day life. While doing the daily activities, even though knowing the consequences, we are unable to avoid use of single-use plastic. Even if it's not possible to enforce a restriction on our family members for extensive use of plastic material. Many plastic producers do not carry any label of its type, but is being used by us. How to overcome this problem? In a country like India, only strict enforcement of law will be carried out to ban plastic production and its uses. Otherwise, it cannot be controlled to manage the waste plastic. So again, there are several parts to the story. It's not like a strict enforcement of law to ban plastic production. We are not throughout this course, if you have listened carefully, I've never advocated, and that's not even practically possible, to ban each and every type of plastic that is being produced. From early morning to late night, whatever product we are using, whatever things we are touching, most of it has plastic. Either 100% or certain percentage of plastic is there. Whether you are using your toothbrush or your toothpaste in the tube, which is again plastic, toothbrush is plastic, then you get in a car or get in a scooter, most of the body parts of automobile has become plastic, and it has actually helped. So plastic being there for the automobile, the weight of automobile has gone down. Weight of automobile going down means better fuel mileage. Better fuel mileage means you are actually helping the environment. So it's not that all plastics are really bad and then we have to really get rid of each and every plastic material from this planet, from our production cycle. That's not the case, at least as I understand. It's a single-use plastic. It is the plastic waste mismanagement which is the problem. We are not able to manage the plastic waste properly. That's the problem. Plastic per se is not that much of a problem. We need plastic because of, think about going to hospital today, and if you get rid of all those plastic material, I don't know whether we have the alternatives to have those drip things or that glucose when they put to you under glucose or certain nutrients and other things, electrolyte that you need to take. Most of those are plastic. Most of the equipment used there is plastic. So we cannot really get rid of plastic because unless we come up with a material which does similar function and is cheaper or similar price, then only you will be able to do that. But at the same time, those single-use plastic, those nasty plastic which are creating nuisance in the environment, that's where we need to focus. So plastic, we should not have a blanket on plastic, like each and every plastic needs to be banned. It's not. This proper management of plastic waste with banning of single-use plastic to some certain extent, as far as practically possible, that will itself go a long way in solving the plastic waste crisis. So, but we need to work on that, work on something which is doable rather than having too much idealistic scenario. So, going to your answer, yes, people don't understand. We need to make them understand. The courses like this is designed just to help on that course. You can take material from this course and show it to your family members, show it to your friends that this is why we need to stop using those single-use plastic. This is why we need to cut down on plastic usage in general as much as we can. So those what you need to you can do, and gradually, like once you start, charity begins at home. So once you start things at home, things from home, it will go to your local locality, to the society, and then finally it will be then like several states. And then looking at several states, the other states will follow. So that's how things will evolve. It will take time. It will not going to happen overnight, but that's how things will evolve. So let's look at some other questions which are coming in from the chat box right now. Then we'll look at the discussion forum questions as we get there. So the Malay Goyal, the goal and vision for Ontario example is for plastic waste or overall MSW. It is for actually overall MSW, but overall MSW also includes plastic. So it is focused on overall MSW, and plastic waste is also a big component of that. Then another question from the same gentleman, Malay Goyal, is the SPCB, CPCB are working to create collection centers for plastic waste? I am storing single-use plastic bag, grocery, chips, candy, etc., but do not find takers. Noida, Ghaziabad. So again, plastic waste management rule just came recently, a couple of years back. So you can look at their website to check whether they are actually having the collection centers for plastic waste. Right now, I don't think there are collection centers specifically dedicated to plastic waste. There are some for e-waste. Again, e-waste also similar rules were made for e-waste management collection too. So, but what you can do is I think many places now there are a wet and dry collection. So if you are in Noida, Ghaziabad area, and I'm not sure where your waste ends up to, but if they are setting up a waste to energy plant, most of this single-use plastic can be sent to the waste to energy plant as long as the waste to energy plant is operated at a certain high temperature, so that we don't have dioxin, furans and other things being formed. So that's where you can do that, where you keep your dry waste, and with the dry waste you can send your plastic to those waste to energy plants. Or other than that, I think it will just end up in a dump site, because, or maybe I don't think Noida, Ghaziabad has a landfill yet. So Amit said, can we use plastic in concrete? Concrete, usually plastic you have to melt it. So when you try to melt the plastic, you have to use it as a high temperature. So that's why it works good for asphalt roads. But for the concrete roads, again, concrete we don't heat the things up, so you cannot really melt that plastic. So you can use melted plastic in concrete, but again, there must be some research going on in that in this area. There are some plastocrete where plastic with concrete, some work is going on. So you can look at that, but mostly those are mostly in a research stage. So theoretically, your answer is yes, you can use plastic in concrete. And there are some work done. If you can search on Google plastocrete, which is plastic with concrete, you will find those information. But in a big way, we haven't seen much things coming up. So next question is from Harsha Gupta. For exam purpose, what should be the preparation strategy? Because there is very data and report remembering like difficult. So yes, it's a lot of information. I totally agree with you. A lot of information was there. So as I mentioned just a few, almost maybe 10 minutes ago, that you have to look at those lecture slides carefully, listen to those lecture videos carefully, and look at the lecture slides carefully. Go by, and then you have done all the quizzes. If you have done all the quizzes, and then the additional reading material, if you can just flip through them to get a big picture idea of what they all are, you should be okay. And I agree, there is a lot of information. This became more like a management course, less on because engineering is more on number crunching. There is not much number crunching here. There are not much problems here. So similarly, you should not expect many problems showing up in the exam anyway. So exam will be similar to what was there in the quiz, and what is the typical other NPTEL exam that you see. One question which was earlier came from Kavita V. Rao. Dear sir, I would like to know what are the measures in context of plastic waste management has been taken at IIT Kharagpur. How much you are able to implement it? Is it possible to take a small colony and do experiment on plastic waste management? So your last question, yes, you can do a small colony and do an experiment of plastic waste management. You have to design that experiment, what kind of experiment you want to do for those plastic waste management. But yes, you can do that. And then that kind of leads to the IIT Kharagpur question that you have. IIT Kharagpur, we banned like a single-use plastic bags and all that almost now 6 months ago, if I correctly, maybe nearly a year ago now. Which was earlier, it was banned in I think maybe 2010 or 11, but that ban did not really work out very well. So, but this recent ban, because the alternatives have been provided, so right now anything less than 50 micron has been banned. So more than 50 micron plastic bags are available, and there are some other types of bags are also available, which the grocery stores are providing by charging only few rupees per bag. So people are using those bags if they have to, but I see many people nowadays bringing their own own bags for grocery stuff, or even their own containers for like buying fish or buying chicken and all that. So it is working, and like there has been reduction in the usage of plastic waste, which we can see it, and we can see it for we can compare with our old load with the new load, and we see there is a difference right there. So that's how it is being implemented. Again, it's a long way to go. We are whatever plastic waste is coming up, what we need to do with that. With the wet and dry separation, we have some plastic which is dried plastic. Can we use it for certain applications? So those things are work is going on at IIT Kharagpur as well. So next question is Austin Salin. Sir, I do like to know in exam which portion is important, and question pattern, which I just answered. That question pattern I answered you that it would be mostly theoretical questions, but which portion is important? All the 8 weeks are important, because and if you have done all the quizzes, if you have taken if you have listened to the video, you have gone through the slides, you should be fine for most part. And of course, yeah, it will be mostly theoretical based exam. Now, Akhil Sarath was talking about how to recycle multi-layered plastic. Theoretically, you can try to remove the different layers, and then they can be recycled as a separate polymer. But the problem with that is it will end up being too costly. So with this multi-layered plastic, right now in most of the places around the world, best alternative is collect them properly and burn them in the waste to energy plant. They do have good calorific value compared to other waste stream in MSW, and you will stop littering. It doesn't kind of float around, go into the river, go into the water, go into the ocean ultimately. So that's the best way to handle it. In terms of recycling, theoretically it is possible, but practically it is economically may not come. Most likely it will not be economically feasible to do that. Srikant Chauhan, plastic waste or e-waste, which is greater danger to environment? See, these questions are we are environmental engineer, we are environmental scientist, we are not environmentalist. So there is a difference between the two. Environmentalist people, they take a little bit of data and then try to make things huge, blow things out of proportion, huge splash on media and all that, but the science is very weak. So in terms of plastic waste or e-waste, you need to look at the science behind it, and it also depends on where you are. Say if you are in outskirts of Delhi or Bombay or Kolkata, where e-waste recycling activity is taking place, and your water is getting contaminated and your air is getting contaminated for the burning of those, again, plastic wires. So then for you e-waste is a bigger danger. But if you are in an area where plastic waste is managed, plastic waste is being handled, then plastic waste is being burned, then plastic waste is a bigger danger. E-waste also contains a lot of plastics in there too. So it's very we cannot, it's like you're asking a parent to choose between the two. So which one is better or which one is not better? So it's plastic waste and e-waste both have their own problems. So both have their own issues. Plastic waste, especially the single-use plastic, being floating around, getting into the ocean. So the extent of problem is very high, very wide area. So any plastic that we have mismanaged, say in West Bengal, may end up in Bay of Bengal and then can ultimately go to some other places and then create problem over there. E-waste is more localized impact unless you make the e-waste travel. Here the plastic, single-use plastic, they keep on blowing away by air. E-waste doesn't blow away by air, so there is a difference. But e-waste has several heavy metals, many toxic metals are there which could be dangerous. So both of them has their own problems. Both of them has their own risk, which both of them has certain dangers. So, but which one is a greater danger? depends on, say, if I'm an expert in plastic waste, I will say plastic waste is a greater danger so that I can get more research money in that area. If I'm working too much on e-waste, if I'm doing PhD on e-waste, I will say e-waste is the biggest problem in the world. So those things are very subjective. So both has certain issues associated with that. So next question is from Mr. Sanjay Patel, how differ is bioplastic and bio-based plastic? We talked about that in the class. So we have talked about when you look at the alternative materials to plastic, like a fossil fuel plastic, we talk in great detail about the bioplastic, bio-based plastic, compostable plastic, and with all the detailed examples it is presented there. So I would encourage you, so it looks like you may have missed that particular week. So I would encourage you to go back and look at that, and that you will find answers over there. So bioplastics are is getting, again, it is being promoted, it is coming into the like it's already in there for last now 10-12 years. So and bio-based plastics are also available. So please look at that particular week and you will have that answer. Sri Mill, does this course support any job opportunity? Like I would say no. Like this is NPTEL courses. Again, these type of questions are more should be directed towards IIT Madras, who is organizing the NPTEL office in IIT Madras. They will be able to answer these questions better for you. But as a NPTEL instructor for several courses now, what I can say is that the goal of this NPTEL program is to offer courses in newer areas, challenging areas, also hardcore basic courses as well, to help the student community all across India, or maybe from abroad too. Like we had a student taking this course in in Congo, in Africa. So it depends. So it's basically designed for making people learn better, and with the expertise that is available, we can offer different courses, and we are basically sharing our knowledge with you, and we are also learning in the process. But in terms of whether the course support any job opportunity, indirectly I would say yes, because if you take these kind of courses, you keep yourself being aware of the problems of the world, problems around us, you have a better chance to getting a job. But does it have any job kind of CDC, the Career Development Center kind of place? I don't think so. So this is again just for knowledge, skill development, not for providing job through NPTEL program. Srikant Chauhan, how many times a PET bottle can be recycled? So again, PET has different grades. So depends on different grades, but in general, if you have like a normal PET bottle, something with Coca-Cola or Pepsi uses, you can recycle it. Like I would say, usually people talk about that 3 to 4 cycles it can be done. So you can make another new plastic bottles. Then next time you may want to go and extract all the fibers and do some work in a research lab, and then again you can come back and do some more work on like in terms of getting the material out and then recycle it, make a fuel out of that. So there are different ways you can do it, but if you're talking about how many a PET bottle can be recycled to make a PET bottle again, I would say maybe 2 to 3 times, and that also will depends on the grade of the PET. Harsha Raj says how to collect microplastic. Microplastic, again, it's kind of difficult to collect them, which I think this question was there in the last live session as well. It's not that because microplastic, as the name suggests, they're very, very tiny particles. So when they get into the environment, it's difficult to track them, difficult to get hold of them. But there are certain technologies are being evolved where people are trying to even get those microplastic out. Some bacterial intervention is also there. And some like a simple filter mechanism is also there, where you have the filter size, filter opening is less than what is the typical size of the microplastic. But on top of that, the focus is also on how to prevent microplastic being formed at the first place, and so how we can stop using microplastic in our products, and at the same time how to stop this bigger plastic bags to get broken down and form microplastic along its disposal life cycle. So that's where the focus mostly is all about on this part. Now, Sanjay Patel again, all living beings made of carbon and hydrogen atoms, and generally plastics have carbon and hydrogen. Living beings are degradable, but plastics are not. Why? It all depends on how they are arranged, isn't it? Most of the organic chemicals, many of the organic chemicals are not biodegradable. Many are there. So it kind of what kind of bond you have, since it's a polymer and it's a layer of polymers, several polymers together. It's very hard to degrade. It's if you have come up with a super bacteria which can eat those plastic, which when we say eating, when they degrade, what essentially happens, these organic molecules are broken down by this bacterial action. So if you have a bacteria, if you have a plastic eating bacteria, which there have been some research, if you Google it, you will find that there have been some research where one lady, I'm forgetting from which university, she found one in Hawaii or some places where methane was being produced as part of plastic degradation. So there are some bacteria which are getting adapted, and they will potentially be able to degrade some of these plastic. But since plastic, the way or like if you talk to an organic chemist, he will be able to explain it to you much better. So organic chemistry professor, and how the layers of different polymers those things are arranged to make those plastic product, make the plastic material, it becomes difficult for bacteria to degrade those. So that's the reason for that. And we already talked about Malay Goel. Sir, in your discussion with MOFCC, what timeline they suggest for implementation of visible waste management, as it is an area of immediate need for the country point of view? I personally don't had much discussion with MOEF and CC. They have not called me for any discussion in terms of visible waste management. I think you're talking about municipal solid waste management. We are working with some cities right now. For example, in Guwahati, we did some work recently. That work is almost over. And then in Kolkata, we have just started working on in Kolkata as well. And then I do attend several meetings and conferences to discuss the waste management issues in India and also sometimes abroad. So in terms of implementation, the timeline, the government's, as you know, the Swachh Bharat mission, which was a kind of cleanliness drive, the phase 1 of Swachh Bharat mission during that government, which is completing it 10 years very soon from now, and almost a month from now, the tenure will be over and the new government will take over. We don't know, like maybe the same, maybe different. We'll see at that particular time. But the phase 1 of Swachh Bharat mission of Government of India was mostly focused on building toilets. There has been some focus on waste management part, but it's mostly focused on building toilets, which a lot of toilets have been built. Whether the design is proper, whether it will serve the purpose, we don't have to worry about those. That's a different discussion. But as part of the Swachh Bharat 2, whichever government comes in power, there should be a Swachh Bharat 2 where there should be a focus, drastic focus on municipal solid waste management. There have been some work has been going on. Many cities and towns are doing source segregated collection now. Wet and dry is being collected separately. So the collection has improved. But after you collect the wet and dry, if you don't treat it, then it becomes a problem. Some cities have come up with some treatment systems. Some compost plant is being built, anaerobic digester tenders are coming over, waste to energy plants are coming in, waste to energy incineration. I have certain reservation with Indian Waste on waste to energy, which you can listen to in waste management course. But it's still there have been some progress, but the bigger progress has not happened. It will probably happen once in Swachh Bharat Mission 2. That's what I hopeful for. So I think that answers your question. Prabhakar Bhandaru, can thermocol waste considered as plastic? Yes. How harmful is thermocol waste? If you burn thermocol, which is it is actually it's a polyestyrene. When you burn those thermocol, it will have certain fumes which is not bad, which is bad for your health. We talk about that in the health impact of plastic waste management. If you go to that particular week, we talk about that as well. So, but thermocol, there have been technologies now where they can recycle those thermocol. So that is coming up as well. So it is harmful, especially the fumes are harmful. So when you burn it, the fumes coming out of those polystyrenes are harmful. they can create different lungs and other disease. Akhil Sarath, is the government providing any kind of subsidy in setting up plastic recycling plant? There are, say, as part of the Swachh Bharat mission, there has been some incentive the government is providing, which you need to kind of look at that Swachh Bharat mission part. At least there have been some help in terms of land acquisition, getting the land for your project, and you can apply for certain green kind of business waiver and those kind of stuff as well. So yes, not very directly, but you can look at certain programs of the government and you should be able to find some help. Prabhakar Bhandaru again, how many costlier percentage wise is greener alternative than plastic? So that also depends on what kind of alternative it is. I would say typically based on some of those bioplastic bags and all that, maybe around 10 to 30-40%, so in that particular range. But yeah, they are costly, sometimes like 1.5 times costlier than like traditional stuff that we are using. So they are expensive, and the prices will come down when more and more people will start using it, and then it will be more competitive. So it's right now so many government offices have started phasing out those plastic cups, single use plastic, and that will help in bringing in market for these greener alternatives. Narendra Kumar, sir, there was a rumor that for China rice is being imported is infested with plastic rice. Is it true? I'm not sure actually. I also heard that rumor, and even there was some newspaper, there was some TV reports, but nowadays those news channel reports are also, we don't know how much of that is true, because many of things, news channel has actually becomes views channel and also entertainment channel. They are giving competition to entertainment channel these days. So anyway, China rice is being imported infested with plastic rice. I am not sure, because think about that, they have to make those plastic and then have to cut it down to the same size as rice so that it blends well with those plastic material, plastic with the regular rice. So I don't think that would be true, because that's economically doesn't make sense to do that. But there might be some instances of some contamination coming up from somewhere. But in general, I would say I don't think that would be economically feasible. So that may not be just a rumor. That may not have much substance on that. So right now, those are the questions we had on the coming up on the chat session. Those of you who are online, if you have any question, please go ahead and post it. We'll still be around for another maybe 10 minutes or so. So I'll just look at some of the discussion forum question meanwhile, while if you have other questions, we'll look at that. So in the discussion forum, some of the common questions, one question came up with is that iCard which is made, what kind of plastic is used for that? And it's mostly PVC which is used for iCards, but there are other for different types of plastic cards. Polycarbonate is also used, ABS plastic, PET plastic is also used, PLA which is polylactic acid, and other composite material of PVC and polyester etc. is also used for that. And there was some question on that PVC plastic is also called poison plastic because it has certain toxin, it's a harmful chemical. So the question was, is the PVC plastic widely used in plumbing sector? This is taps, pipes, overhead tanks to rooms, bathrooms. So is there any effect of PVC pipes on drinking water supply? So there have been some studies which claim that some of these toxins like DEHP, plasticizers and others are leaching into those PVC pipes. And so it's, and again, see, it all depends on how the overall big picture. So theoretically, yes, things may leach off, but you need to also look at what concentration it leaches off, how much it got diluted with water, whether it is under safe limit or whether it's under like above the safe limit. So those things we need to look at to make a decision. And at the same time, plastic pipes are so easy to handle, so easy to put together. So overall, people think about that it's easy to work with the plastic pipes. It's cheaper too, and it has more longer life compared to regular other pipes. Those like those steel pipes that we used to use earlier. Those so that's the reason the iron pipes that we used to use earlier. That's the reason people have started using those PVC pipes. What types of plastic is used in manufacture of black plastic bag? It is LDPE. It is the LDPE, and then color is additive, and most of this additive color is based on metals. So that's why you need when plastic this plastic single-use plastic colored bags have metals, traces of metals present in there as well. So, but right now most of these bags are banned, which is less than 50 microns in size. So that's it's not there. One question for somebody named Kavita came that people use Teflon cookware. Traces of Teflon was found in the blood sample. Yes, that's also Teflon is that non-stick cookware. That's why people say don't buy non-stick cookware from if you are getting a non-stick cookware in a very cheap price, that means that cookware is not good. Because if it's a good quality, chances of getting it cheaper is not very cheap, like exorbitant cheap price. Sometimes you see the huge, like a big deal, big discount and other stuff could be there on certain products. But in general, if you are finding with some unknown brands and not, so you have to be careful. You have to buy things from trusted sources so that you can be sure that the Teflon is of good quality. And then there is a question on it is said that plastic have low toxicity while we manufacture the fumes that comes out of it. Is it not toxic? Yes, but usually the manufacture is done in a controlled environment. They do have air pollution control system. They do have the vacuum system in place. So under ideal conditions, you should not have any exposure. But when you put in the packaging food, especially we say that don't put very hot food in plastic, because that's especially, and then it has a chances of plastic leaching into your food items. So that always use good quality food containers. You get even them, they have certain certification that they are BPA free and all that. So use those kind of plastic. So another question just came up on that live session chats that these days plastic coating is given to packaging material to give products lustrous look. So can the coating plastic be considered as a single-use plastic? I would say yes, because if it's in the packaging material, those packaging material will get discarded. So this coating plastic will become part of the waste stream. And not even the coating plastic they're talking about, that when you go and buy those Nescafe or any of those beverage container, that glass cups or glass that you get, which is a paper cups, but it's not 100% paper. They also have a very thin layer of plastic inside, so that you can hold that tea or coffee or cold drinks, whatever in there. So otherwise it will become soggy and things will come out. So for that they do put a thin layer of plastic, and those thin layer of plastic are actually nastier than the thicker plastic that you get from say big departmental store like Big Bazaar and other places. So although those plastics are also, if not managed properly, could be a nuisance, but the thin plastics are like a higher nuisance value. So that needs to be managed properly. So yes, it is a single-use plastic as per your question. Now, which company in India are working on plastic waste management? There are in terms of plastic waste management separately has not really come up. It is again managed as a part of municipal solid waste in India right now. But there are companies which in terms of when you talk about the on the disposal side in terms of landfill or waste to energy plants. But when you talk about the recycling of plastic, there are companies out there. There is a company in Pune, I'm not remembering the name right now, but they take plastic and they make newer products out of that. And I just forgot the name, but we recently I saw their presentation in a conference. But if you Google, you will find they are based out of Pune. And then there is also like if you just think about Reliance, that's again a huge plastic recycling company right there. So they are taking plastic and then they produce a newer material, newer polymer, and they use it back into their system. So that they do in terms of managing different types of plastic. So specifically on plastic waste management, just on looking at, so some companies are there which are working on the recycling sector. but including Reliance, and there are some other companies. I don't remember the name right now, but there are few companies who are working in this area right now, mostly trying to recycle plastic, getting oil out of plastic, getting fuel out of plastic, and getting fibers out of plastic. So recycling in a different way, as we talked about in the class as well. There are different ways you can recycle as a plastic as it is. You can recycle the fibers, you can make very small pallets and recycle those as well. So that's kind of gives you different types of plastic recycling. So there was a question earlier which was talking about that if you use plastic in industries instead of metals, will it reduce the strength? Actually, we have found to be plastic, there are different types of plastic, composite plastic, which gives similar strength than metals in most cases. And plastic is flexible, plastic can last for a longer period of time. Their longevity is sometimes almost 6 times higher than metals for that same application. So that's why that's why plastic is so popular. You see the plastic, different types of plastic being used in different applications. So it's a popular material. Another question from Akhil, which is multi-layered plastic is used for making pavers, block, and bricks. You can like I have seen that as well. Like in some of those, I think we have put those in as part of online reading material too, where you can use there are things where plastic is being used for different applications. So you have to melt it and then you put it together, but again you are using it for one particular purpose. So things can be done. So there are different applications are being done, like a multi-layered plastic. Most of it is actually burned to get energy out of that, but you can use it for making paver, blocks, and bricks. Like just I think it was there in that lecture material as well, which we talked about. But the problem here is getting the different layers separated, which will be of concern because many times, although when you try to make a paver, block, or bricks, you may not use all the 3 types or 4 types which is there. So you have to separate them out. So you have to look at the economic part of that as well. So I think we have answered most of the questions that you had, and also we looked at some of the common questions you had in the discussion forum. There was one question on flax banner, lot of flax banner waste is being generated. Which was a question on the discussion forum by somebody called Sam Parker. It can work good for the recycling market, and there are some creative suppliers who develop process to recycle and separate and reuse the PVC into the secondary grade films. They also come up with some use for old banners. Being in India, as we know, like people always find things for use. We can use the old banners I've seen people using old banners in their houses as the seat to put on different shelves. So those things can also be done. Can be used as a rain cover on your roof too. So there are different practical uses are there. So a lot of them are coming up, especially even at IIT Kharagpur campus. We see a lot of banners being produced because so many courses being offered, so many short-term courses, so many conferences, workshop, and for every conference workshop there is at least 2 to 3 or sometimes more banners out there. And then you have banners. This is the election season, so you will see lots of flexi banner waste. So that is a challenge, which is. So the question was, what can we do in terms of making recycle and make money out of that? So we have answered that in the discussion forum. It is the answer is there. But some of the challenges were highlighted. Another question which just came in: what will be the data of waste of plastic in future? Will it increase or decrease? In the short term, it will increase. When you talk about plastic waste, as the economy of the country improves, as we are getting more and more GDP goes up, as per capita income goes up, as people's purchase power goes up, typically the waste quantity tends to increase with increase in GDP per capita per person. So, which is a well-known fact, which is has been documented from data from around the world, and we have seen that happening in many countries. With the focus on reduction on plastic waste being produced, with the focus on looking at the alternative material, things will taper off, especially the single-use plastic will probably taper off quickly, and then the other plastic materials may as well, if the alternatives comes in, which is again, we don't have alternatives to many of those plastics right now. So for at least till I think my active lifetime, which would be maybe another 25-30 years, I don't see plastic waste coming down drastically. So if you are an expert of plastic waste today, and if you invest your time and energy on learning about plastic waste management, come up with a better ways of managing plastic, you can have a good career on plastic waste management, because the waste will keep on increasing at least for next decade or two, and then there might be slightly decrease. So, but then we will have a huge volume of plastic waste to manage. Similarly for e-waste as well, and the other waste stream, although it takes a while for waste quantity to go down. So you will have, and our GDP will again hopefully will keep on improving in coming future, and so you will have an increase in plastic waste coming out. And here when I'm talking about plastic waste, it's not only single use, it's a total. Single use, you may start seeing some dip since with the ban of several types of plastics and other stuff, especially single-use plastic, you may see a slightly decrease in the plastic waste in terms of the single-use plastic, but there will be for others you will see it there. Another question from Srikanth: technology or policy which can help out plastic waste management? You need to have a perfect marriage of both. That looks like the perfect question to end the show. So technology or policy which can help with the plastic waste management? You need technology and you also need policy. Both needs to be in there. And when you say technology, policy, technology has inherently built-in economics as well. So it's your economic so things have to work out economically, because and then technologies should be easy to use. We need to come up with proper replacement for existing plastic materials so that you can reduce plastic usage. Reduction in plastic usage will only reduce plastic waste. Plastic waste is when you discard those plastic material. As I said in the beginning, I've said it many times in the lecture material. Plastic is not a problem as such. It is the plastic waste which is a problem. So if we can manage the plastic waste properly, if we don't let it get into uncontrolled into the environment, what had happened, whether at the manufacturing plant, whether during the use or whether during the disposal, plastic is a wonderful material. So it has a lot of functions, but the problem comes because we are not managing the plastic waste properly. So policy is needed to manage the plastic waste. Rules are coming up in India and other countries, as we talked about in the course, and we also talked about the technology of how to recycle the plastic, how to do the resource recovery of plastic, those pyrolysis, getting the oil, getting mechanical recycling, coming up with a biodegradable plastic. So all those technologies have to be there to help. So that together it will come up with a solution. So both are important. And in terms of many times the technology in the context of India, technology is there, but we need policy which helps this technology. So we need certain type of subsidy initially to handhold some of those companies which is coming up with a beautiful technology to handle plastic waste. We have to come up with policy in terms of the plastic waste collection, municipal solid waste collection, municipal solid waste treatment and all that. So on the policy angle, again, we do have, I will not say we don't have policy, but the policy is there. It's the implementation of the policy which becomes a problem. So I think I don't think we have any further questions right now, and we are almost 1 hour. So we will call it a day, and this was perfect question to end this course, this live session. So I hope you have enjoyed this course. This would be probably the last time we will have interaction for this particular course this year. Maybe again we'll see next time in some other course. All the best to all of you who are registered for the exam, which is quite a decent numbers. More than 2,000 people are registered. So we are looking forward to you doing well in the course. And so all the best, and I hope you enjoyed this course. We enjoyed it, myself and the TAs. They worked very hard, and of course the entire our NPTEL team worked very hard to deliver this course to you. So thank you again for taking this course, and we'll meet again someday in future. Thank you.